Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up, hey. 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 Way down in the back.
Oh, man. My bad. Hey. We are live. Welcome to the Tigers Avenue show, everybody. Been a great weekend for the Tigers. So we got a show here for you to discuss all things LSU. Man, finally, for what felt like forever, LSU's finally back in the win column.
Arisen from the depths.
Tough few weeks for the Tigers. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if it could have gotten any lower. But, guys, the reality is there is positivity to look towards. I know people are about ready to pack things in on Brian Kelly. I think we could talk about that in the next segment a little bit. We're going to have to pump the brakes on that because Brian Kelly isn't going anywhere, whether you wanted to or not. So we'll talk about that in the future and what lies ahead. I think there's a lot to be positive about, and possibly some great things unfolding in the offseason. So we'll talk about that. We'll recap the LSU Vandy game that we were actually in attendance of. It was a great game, great atmosphere until about the third quarter. So, I mean, we enjoyed it. We loved it. We stayed till the very end. I certainly want to discuss the drive that Vanderbilt had to make it a one-touchdown game in the fourth quarter and how they benefited from a lot of really bad calls. Anyways, but I want to talk about that. Obviously, we'll discuss our weekend there as well and give you a recap of what we thought and saw from the LSU Tigers, what improved, what still needs to be worked on, all of those things. And then, man, there's been some excitement lately on the basketball front with the men and the ladies, both having comeback victories in these games that they're attending, these invitational type tournaments that they've both been involved with. They have, produced some exciting games. So we'll give you a little recap and discussion on that as well. So going to be a great night here in the Tigers Avenue show. Lots to talk about. Glad you're joining in here. We'd love to hear from you. So comment, give us your thoughts on this weekend and everything that we're discussing. We'd love to pop your comment up and interact with y'all as much as we possibly can. With that being said, Zach, LSU, Vanderbilt, Tigers win. I feel like the score is not indicative of the way the game went. The score looked like it was a tight ball game. And in the second half, it really felt like LSU had kind of commanded things and kind of taken control of things. Not necessarily maybe on the scoreboard, but on the field, it certainly felt like that. And of course, LSU capped the game off by kneeling the ball inside the 10-yard line. So certainly could have been even more of a distance between the score, but there's no point. You take a knee, you win the game. No sense in risking your players' health for the sake of putting more points on the board when you have the game won. So, although it was just a one-touchdown game, Zach,
it felt like three.
Yeah, it felt like the Tigers won by double digits, and in reality, they very easily could have won by double digits, and probably even more had a couple of calls not gone their way. That definitely went their way there in the fourth quarter. The rest tried to make it interesting, it felt like. So, I mean, but man, LSU certainly asserted itself later in the game, but buddy, you could not have asked for a worse start than what you had. It was, I mean, after all that has happened leading up to this game, after everything that has transpired with the losses and the way that the last few games have played out, the loss of Bryce Underwood, it felt like everything was falling in. LSU's at an all-time low, and you're playing Vanderbilt in your own stadium, and you open up the game, opening kickoff, you fumble it. Thank God you recover it. You go 3 and out. First play, Diego Pavia throws a 60-plus yard touchdown pass, and you're going, oh boy,
here we go again.
And we got a blessing from the student section there in LSU as Fire Kelly chants begin to rain down in Tiger Stadium. And
Definitely the lowest moment for this LSU football team of the season.
very, very low moment in at that very exact moment. I mean, after all that happened, after everything, you go 3 and out, and first play they throw a long ball on you, and it's like, God, suck the life out of the stadium immediately. Thank goodness, though, after that, and it even got worse, Zach, on the ensuing kickoff following the big touchdown, Tre'Davious Green gets destroyed into Josh Williams, and he's down at the 10-yard line. Yeah. And you're thinking, holy cow, this could not have gotten any worse. But thank goodness it got better. LSU would go on to have a great drive, 90-yard touchdown play, highlighted by a 20-plus yard reception by Josh Daniels, capped off by a 20 or maybe 18-yard rushing touchdown by Josh Williams as he broke a tackle coming through the line and broke free, made it to the end zone right in front of us, Zach, right in front of us. It was really awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
It's cool when you're in the stadium because you see it happen before it happens, right? Before it actually happens.
Yeah.
So you get that moment where you're watching him and you see him break the tackle, and you're like, oh, he's got nothing but green in front of him. And so immediately you knew it was a touchdown because of our angle. And so that was really cool for us, getting to see that. And it was a great response on that drive, considering how horrible things had started. I mean,
yeah,
Zach, how easily could you have been like, well, this is just who we are. We suck, and folded up and packed it in and let this game get away from you and make matters even worse.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You showed resolve. You showed resiliency, and you responded with a great drive. And then the next defensive possession, you got to stop. I mean, really, after the first blown touchdown, your defense was fantastic.
Yeah.
After the first blown touchdown, your defense was very solid. Now, the way that Vanderbilt beat Alabama in the game is the way that they were trying to beat LSU. They were trying to play keep away. You know, they come out in the second half, which, by the way, then, you know, after LSU would get a stop, again, they would go on to score a touchdown, be 14-7. That would be your score at half. And then Vanderbilt comes out at half, and they do what they've always tried to do, which is play keep away, tried to keep the ball as long as could. Long drive, took half of the third quarter away. They come away with 3 points. And they scored another touchdown. It was really kind of given to them. I felt like it was kind of handed to them. So I'm not going to blame our defense on that. But outside of that blown touchdown, your defense looked far better.
Yeah.
They brought pressure. They kept Pavia off balance. The run stop was really good. The run defense was really good. Rush defense was really solid. Outside of the one blown touchdown, the passing defense was really solid. So it was an all around good performance for LSU. Garrett Nussmeier had a fantastic day. I mean, just fantastic.
It was his best QBR rating of the season.
Oh, absolutely. Almost 80%, right? 80 completion percentage, over 320 yards passing and one touchdown. Should have had more than one touchdown. A couple drop balls that aren't his fault, but man, Garrett played a fantastic game and threw a couple balls that were, amazing. I don't blame Aaron Anderson because it's a really tough catch, but that ball, man, that Garrett threw to the corner of that end zone like that was just
perfectly spotted.
Could not have thrown it any better. So I was really, really pleased with Garrett Nussmeier and his performance. And of course, Zach, you got to shout out Josh Williams, who's had a really rough year in his final year with the Tigers. Man, just exploded in this game. 151 of total yards of total offense, rushing and receiving. He played a crucial role in this game, in the passing game. There were many moments when Garrett looked like things were getting antsy, and he would find Josh out of the backfield and pick up big yardage. And so 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just really happy for Josh. And, man, like I said, the first touchdown, broke a tackle, got in on his second touchdown, rushing touchdown, 21 yards, broke a couple tackles, got in the end zone. Just really, really loved the effort and the fight from your veteran guys, regardless of how the last few weeks have gone. They played really, really well. I was pleased with their resolve and resiliency to go out there and perform that way. So I was really excited about that. One last thing, Zach, and then I'll kind of let you give your thoughts. I've been very critical of him with good reason, okay? With good reason, and also with an understanding that he's young and he's going to grow, and he's in a really tough spot. But Paul Mubinga, has been – I hate to put it this way, but he's been a liability as a true freshman, right? Well, not a true freshman. I think he's a redshirt freshman. But as a freshman, first time playing, plugging in a spot for Garrett Dellinger, getting his first action in the SEC. He's had a rough go at it, and he's learning what it's like playing in the SEC compared to playing at Buford High School, right? And he had a much, much better game against Vanderbilt. I was very pleased. Vanderbilt's defense is no slouch. Clark Lee has a very solid defense there at Vanderbilt. He's a very defensive-minded coach. And so I was very happy with Paul Mubinga as well, and hope to see that growth in him continue. These are valuable snaps for him. Next year you may need him with a couple of guys leaving. Obviously, well, not more than a couple guys. Maybe one returning, but you're definitely losing 3. So you may have to trust him next year. And so these are valuable snaps for him, and I was pleased with his performance on Saturday against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, overall it was good. Weekend trip for us. I really enjoyed it. I was nervous going down there because how everything has played out recently. Just felt like LSU just kept taking L's all over the place. In every aspect. Football, recruiting, basketball had lost to Pitt the same night that we went down. It was just like everywhere you looked, LSU was taking an L. So to be able to take that trip to Baton Rouge and enjoy seeing our Tigers come out victorious, it was just a feel-good moment, and it makes you be able to kind of take a step back and think about the future and think about what could be with this team entering next year, because obviously how they finish this year could be a huge momentum builder for this team next year. But overall, the game, I agree with you. I think it was a lot more, uh, telling when if you were there actually watching the whole game, rather than just looking at the box score, because LSU, outside of the very beginning of the game, as you mentioned, they really controlled the game for the entire second, third, and fourth quarters. In the fourth quarter, as you mentioned, the refs they wanted to make it close, and I'll comment on on our opinion there because I know you didn't, but you know that drive where they scored the touchdown to get to 17, LSU had forced a 3-and-out. Vanderbilt's lining up to punt. They go for it, and he's tackled right at the line. And I mean, I think everybody thought he had gained the line that he to get the down. But then whenever you pop up the replay on that massive, brand new spanking big board there at the stadium, it was very clear that when his knee landed, he was about probably a foot, maybe 8 inches short from the yard to game. I mean, just clear as day. All the fans saw it on the big board. The ball, where the ball was at when his knee landed, was a good 6 to 8 inches short of the line to gain. And yet, I guess the refs didn't think there was enough evidence there to overturn it, even though it was pretty clear as day for us. And so, they give them the first down, say the play stands, and the Vanderbilt's able to drive, finish that drive off with a little Pavia rushing touchdown. So that made it a lot closer than it was. And then, as you mentioned, LSU was able to drain the clock there at the end with the last 5:47 on the clock, and could have made it, a lot bigger score. So you take away the refs handing Vanderbilt their last touchdown, and you put another touchdown on the board if LSU had wanted to score there at the end. If you take the points in the second drive, the third drive, the drive after the touchdown, this game looks a lot different. That was frustrating, Reagan. I know some people have different opinions. Some people like to go for it. Some people think, it's situational. But in my opinion, I really believed that Brian Kelly should have taken the points there on that third drive. Right after they had some momentum, they had scored the touchdown to make it 7-7. Kick the field goal, take the lead. Because right after that drive is when Vanderbilt put together a really nice drive of their own, and they got in LSU territory, and I thought Clark Lee probably also made a mistake by not kicking a field goal. You had just gotten a stop inside your own 5-yard line when LSU went for a 4th and goal. You're sitting at 4th and 2. And instead of taking advantage and getting points yourself after your opponent failed to do so on 4th down, you also decided to go for a 4th down, and LSU made a huge stop there on 4th and 2 to keep the game at even. So as you mentioned, I don't really have to go into detail more about it, but just to reiterate the job that Josh Williams done, I'll say I've been saying for the last few weeks that Josh Williams has been undervalued in these last few weeks. I understand what Caden Durham can do. I understand Caden Durham is more of a home run hitter. I understand Caden Durham has a higher ceiling. I understand all of that. But Josh Williams has continually given you his 100% every single game. And not only that, but he has contributed in very key moments of games. I mean, I understand what happened against Florida. A lot of people don't want to talk about the Florida game, but Josh Williams kept a lot of drives alive for you in that game. A lot. So we can't take for granted what he has done on the field. We all are extremely happy and thankful for what he has done off the field as a leader and being committed to LSU. But on the field, we can't take for granted what he has done on the field, despite him not being the talent that is Caden Durham. So really big night again for Josh Williams. But as I mentioned earlier, a night like Saturday night, it's a feel good. You get a win, and you can start to try to build some momentum heading into next year. And I think we can kind of transition into this segment here about players potentially returning. When you look at this team, Reagan, they've been real close, right? Like they've had their moments, but you could probably say that they are what their record is because you had a really close loss to South Carolina. You toyed with UCLA. You toyed with Nickel. I mean, there was some games thrown in there that you won. Obviously, the Ole Miss game, you did not lead the entire game until the last second. So not even the last
game, you dominated.
Not even the last second, but after the ball game had already ended in regulation. So, you probably really are what your record says you are now sitting at 7-4. But LSU has had some really bright moments, and they've had some really dark moments this season. The brightest moment being the walk-off touchdown to Kyron Lacey there in the Ole Miss game at home. The darkest moment being the student section chanting "Fire Brian Kelly" after Vanderbilt launched a 63-yard touchdown on the first play of scrimmage for them in this game this past Saturday. So it's been inconsistent, Reagan. But I want to say this, Reagan. We failed to remember what this defense looked like last year and how much Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas saved your tail last year.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels having a Superman, the Heisman year that he had, easily LSU could have lost 2 other games, 3 other games. You could have been 6-6, 7-5.
Yeah.
Well, Jaden Daniels did not save your tail multiple times last year.
This is true.
So you go from a season like that where you went 9-3. The defense was terrible. Jaden's probably saved you 2 to 3 games. And you go to this year, well, now you don't have Jaden and you don't have the 2 first-round draft picks. The defense is better, but they still have many, many personnel issues that they had last year. So if you realistically look at the season, and we said it, Reagan, like we really don't know what this season is going to look like. It could be, we said 8-4, the floor to the ceiling being 10-2 in the regular season.
Right.
And it's looking like potentially you're going to be around that 8-4 mark. You could easily lose to Oklahoma on Saturday because of how good they looked this past Saturday versus Bama. You could easily lose that and be 7-5. But we were saying we really don't know what this team is going to do. They could be a 3 to 4 to 5 loss team, or they could potentially lose maybe 1 to 2 games and look really good and make a push for the playoff. So unfortunately, it has been the latter, but it makes a lot of sense, Reagan, when you consider everything you lost offensively. So it is what it is, Reagan. But as we can look forward to next year, there is a lot of positive things that have come out that are very newsworthy from the LSU football program, especially this past Monday and over the weekend. So speaking of the weekend, though, Reagan, huge weekend in college football. Alabama lost, Ole Miss lost, Texas A&M lost. Who else?
It was a great weekend. It was a great weekend.
I think I missed.
Colorado lost to Kansas.
Colorado. I mean, so many upsets happened this weekend, and it was great. I am the crowd that does not care about SEC loyalty. I am of that crowd. Like, if I'm miserable, I don't want the other teams that we compete against,
our rivals, to be just like living it up. Like, I want you to be miserable too. So Ole Miss losing to Florida, Alabama losing,
to Oklahoma, Texas A&M losing to Auburn. Love it. Absolutely loved every second of it. So crazy weekend of college football. But good news for LSU is, Reagan, that there is potentially some big names returning to the program for the 2025 season.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of them I think I look at it and I go, yeah, why not? Let's just start with the most obvious one is Garrett Nussmeier. That's a big question. I don't see why he wouldn't come back. Number one,
all intentions are that he is.
Right. All expectation is that Garrett Nussmeier will come back. Look, losing Bryce Underwood, that's your plan now.
Yeah.
You got to have Garrett Nussmeier back. But look, as critical as people has been of Garrett Nussmeier, Garrett at some points in the season was putting himself into Heisman conversations. I'm not saying he was like going to win it or anything, but he had literally put himself in good odds of the Heisman at moments in this season.
Yeah.
Led the SEC in touchdowns a few times, and probably is still close to the top still. Now, you had a 3-week stretch there where the wheels came off a little bit, and he committed a lot of turnovers, and that's when everybody became critical of him. And we talk about this a lot, being captive of the moment. We're so captive of that we forget what has happened, right?
Yeah.
Or Garrett Nussmeier has, wheeled us at times to, like you said specifically, the Ole Miss game. I mean, you think about that final drive of regulation to go and tie that game up. You think about the 4th down play to Mason Taylor. You think about the 4th down play to Aaron Anderson to the end zone. We're so captive of the moment we forget what he's done. And then the guts in overtime, first play to take the shot to Kyron, to end that game the way he did. There's been so many moments that have been so great. And guys, we've seen this now twice. We've seen this twice now with quarterbacks. Why would you not want Garrett Nussmeier back? Joe Burrow. We thought Joe Burrow in 2018 was a good quarterback. He was a good quarterback. There was a lot of complaints about Joe Burrow in 2018 when he didn't throw a single touchdown in the month of November. Guys, Joe Burrow in 2018 threw 18 touchdowns total. 18 touchdowns total on the season. He threw 0 in the month of November. Comes back the next year and throws 60 touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying Garrett Nussmeier is going to do that, but my point is Garrett Nussmeier has thrown more touchdowns than Joe Burrow did his first year.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, boy, there was a lot of criticism of Jaden Daniels his first season. Was there not, Zach?
Oh, gosh.
A ton. I mean, the audacity of some of these people.
A lot of people wanted to go to Garrett Nussmeier.
They wanted him gone, and everybody was hopping on the Nuss bus and calling for the Nuss bus and blah, blah, blah. He won't throw the ball downfield. He won't throw the ball downfield. He's just a running back at quarterback. Comes back and has an incredible season. We never, ever, ever thought that we would see a season anywhere remotely close to what Joe Burrow did. And had Jaden Daniels played the same amount of games that Joe Burrow did in 2019, he would have been dang close. He would have been darn close to doing and matching the numbers of Joe Burrow, plus his rushing numbers on top of it. 1,000-yard rusher last year, 40-plus touchdowns. I mean, it was a phenomenal season. Why would you not want first year Joe Burrow? He was good. Second year Joe Burrow, greatest LSU player
best ever.
Literally single season greatest college quarterback. single season in the history of college football.
Yeah.
Period. Jaden Daniels, man, there's some really great flashes here. His legs are amazing, but man, he's got to work on a couple things. He's real timid. He doesn't want to throw the ball downfield. Comes back, Heisman season. Garrett Nussmeier, man, there's some great things that he does. Look at how he anticipates. Look at how he throws receivers open. Look at his guts, his leadership. But he's a bit turnover prone.
Yeah.
Why would you not, after seeing what Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels did in year 2,
and Reagan, Zach Mettenberger,
absolutely. Zach Mettenberger with a 3,000-yard passing season, 1,000-yard receivers, Odell and Jarvis. Why would you not want Garrett Nussmeier to come back? Guys, if you want him gone, you're begging LSU to have another 7-5 season. Okay? Unless you go in the portal and bring somebody in that's like a veteran, seasoned quarterback who can come in immediately and affect and be the number one guy. You don't want Garrett Nussmeier to leave this team. You want him back. I want him back.
I agree.
I want him back for another season. And just to be flat honest, and I know not everybody would agree with this. That's fine. It wouldn't have been a bad idea even if Bryce Underwood came. It would not have been a bad idea.
I agree.
To redshirt Bryce Underwood, well, maybe not redshirt him. I mean, he'd probably be the backup. But if you could redshirt him, possibly, and let Garrett play out his last season, and then you turn the reins over to Bryce Underwood. He's not coming now anymore, though. You got to turn the page. And that page is Garrett Nussmeier. He's here. He's got another year of eligibility. Let him be the guy. So that's number one. I know we went a little long on that, but that's the most important. It's the most important. Garrett Nussmeier needs to come back. I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back. I would be shocked if he did not come back. Let me put it that way. Secondly, in terms of pass catchers, you're looking at the roster and you're going, okay, well, you obviously Kyron Lacey can't come back. Aaron Anderson come back. You definitely think he's coming back, and he could potentially be wide receiver 1. And then you're going, okay, CJ Daniels can go. Can he leave? He can. Well, Brian Kelly comes out on Monday and says all indications are pointing that he's going to return. That's massive. That is huge, Zach. People do not realize how large of a piece CJ Daniels has been in this season. And to have him come back next year, he has been just as much as Mason Taylor has been his safety blanket, CJ Daniels has been Garrett Nussmeier's safety blanket. He is a reliable receiver, and I want him back. And I think if he were to come back, he would have an amazing season. So Aaron Anderson and CJ Daniels returning would be fantastic as your pass catchers. I'll be honest with you, Zach. Some people have talked about Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor, I don't think is coming back. I don't think Mason Taylor's coming back. That if he comes back, I will be stunned. I really will.
I mean, he might could be if a lot of these, I will say this, if a lot of these dominoes do fall, as far as all these guys potentially come back,
CJ,
Aaron comes back, CJ comes back, Aaron comes back, Xavier comes back, Chris Hilton comes back, Emory Jones maybe comes back, and then, potentially Harold Perkins on the other side of the ball comes back. If all of these dominoes fall, I would not be surprised if Mason goes, hey, maybe I should stay one more year just to have a potential run at the college football playoff.
Maybe.
But maybe that's enticing enough. But I think a lot of dominoes have to fall for certain individuals to stay.
Yeah. The next big one there you mentioned, Zach, Emory Jones. As surprising as that sounds, word is that Emory Jones may be looking at a return. Sounds like the NFL would like to see Emory Jones at a guard position. I think he projects as a guard in the NFL. I don't think he's a tackle.
Well, also this, Reagan, he would probably go, somewhere maybe late first round, early second round
Right,
if he was
right.
decided to go right now. We know what Will Campbell's going to do. Will Campbell's going to be a first round draft pick.
There's no doubt. First top 5.
But if you
probably.
come back another year, you're talking about now you're the guy. We know Will Campbell has been the guy, but you come back next year and Emory becomes the guy and potentially puts himself in the conversation of, now that Will Campbell's not on the board anymore, he's going to, I mean, I feel like he's almost automatically going to move up in the draft boards because he's not having to wait behind his teammate Will Campbell to get taken off the board.
Banks.
Exactly.
Kelvin Banks at Texas. Yeah, he certainly could come back and put himself at like a, top half first round pick.
Exactly. And I think that's what's probably enticing.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I think he projects as a guard, and I think the NFL wants to see him at guard. And you got guys like Tyree Adams and Weston Davis that can kick out to the tackles that are probably more natural tackles than Emory Jones is, and that would pair well. I mean, of course, then you're returning DJ Chester, maybe Paul Mubinga plays the other guard. Maybe you go in the portal and get a guy. We'll talk about the portal here in a second. Speaking of returning players, but that certainly would be a huge piece to this offense to get another veteran leader on the offensive line from that group of 4, right? That is been playing so long together. If you could get one of them back, Emory, if you could get Emory back to come and be the leader of the offensive line, I think that'd be huge. I think it'd be massive for the continuity of the offensive line. And then, like you mentioned, Zach, really the other big name potential return is Harold Perkins. And look, I want Harold Perkins to come back. I want Harold Perkins to come back because I do not want this to be the end of his time at LSU, the way it has transpired.
I agree.
Now, not Garrett. Brian Kelly has said that it seems like that decision has not been made yet. It sounds like he's been around the program more. He was there Saturday night. He's been in football ops. He's been around the team. Maybe there's a vibe that he wants to come back. He early in the season, preseason predicted to be SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Clearly did not pan out with his injury. It wasn't really panning out on the field too, let's be honest. Playing out of position, maybe his draft stock has come down a little bit. He'll still be a great draft pick. He could enter the draft. Look, let's be real here. He can enter the draft and still be a very good draft slot. He could come back, though, and say, I'm going to have the best year I possibly can and up my draft stock and end my LSU career the right way. I think that opportunity is there. And when you look at the way that things are working out with the linebacker, I think that because Swinson is going to be gone, he's out of eligibility, Savion's going to be gone, I think it would work out that Harold Perkins would be playing right where he should be playing. At the jack spot where Swinson is at, coming off the edge and getting after the quarterback. Because West Weeks, it looks like, is going to be holding on to his red shirt. He's probably not going to play against Oklahoma this weekend. Hold on to his red shirt so he can come back. West Weeks or Witt comes back. West comes back. You have Devon Keys. You have Xavier Atkins. You can go in the portal and land a guy. I think they will. And, of course, you're also adding on Keelan Moses in this class, and you have other freshmen that haven't quite played. Like, it looks like the shaping of the linebacker room is getting to where it needs to be, and Harold can go back to where he should be. So you could get Harold back, and you could get him back where he was playing his freshman year and did what he did.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he should do. That's what I hope he does. But reality, he can still go to the draft and be a high pick. But I think there is, again, he's considering it. It seems like he's considering a return. And Zach, there's no doubt that an NIL offer is there for him. There's no question about that.
For sure.
There's going to be money for him to be made here at LSU. So certainly, Zach, you look at the potential for returning players. Man, if you think about all of those dominoes falling, aside from Mason Taylor, if you think about all of those dominoes falling, man, you could have a team where you're going, okay, they can correct what they've lacked in the offseason. And this could be a really good team. And here's what I mean by they can correct where they lack. The reality is they lack in personnel too.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly, and I wanted to address this in this segment, because if you get those players to return and then you go do what Brian Kelly said he's going to do in the portal, it could be a championship roster. Brian Kelly was so candid on Monday in his press conference.
Yeah.
Very transparent. Literally told you that this past off season, essentially he was saying we tried to spend as little as possible and put it together. And that was obvious. You whiffed on Dominic Williams. You whiffed on Simeon Barrow because you didn't want to spend the money that they were wanting to be paid. Brian Kelly's exact words were he was going to be very aggressive in the portal. If you return all those players and you go hard at the portal, he literally said, this will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, portal class in the country.
Well, if he's saying that, he better deliver. That's all I'm saying. Better deliver.
How more transparent can he be about his plan? I think
he can be transparent, but
make it happen.
The difficulty with being that transparent is you create major expectations. So he's got to go deliver now.
Oh, it's true. There's no doubt. And I think they want to. I think having Bo Davis, having Corey, having Jake Olson, I think they're going to go. I would, on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to see a lot. I think we may go grab a receiver. We may go grab a tight end. I just think we will. I think we'll grab, because I don't think Mason Taylor's come back. I think we'll go grab a blocking, catching tight end, because Pimpton is not really that natural tight end. He's more of just a pass catcher, mismatch size type tight end.
Yeah.
So I think we would go get somebody with Mason Taylor's skill set. He may not be as good, but somebody as good as you possibly can. I think you get a linebacker. I think you're definitely going to get on the defensive line, specifically the defensive tackle position.
Yep. Well, I've probably all across the defensive line.
Well, I mean, you got Deshaun Womack coming. He's going to be back, and then Perkins, if he comes back, you'll have good edge rushers. Maybe you go pick up a couple more. I think you're going to go pick up premium. I think safety will be the spot to watch in the portal. I mean, I would expect LSU to be going after the top safety names in the portal hard. Like that will be the spot.
Yeah.
So certainly be watching for that. If you return all these players, you sign this class, right? Look, aside from Bryce Underwood, this is still an amazing class, y'all. It's an amazing class. And there could be more that are coming, okay? There's a potential flip that could happen here soon. Another 5-star. Not a consensus 5-star, but he's a 5-star in some of the different sites. I think he's a 5-star on ESPN. I think he's a 5-star in Rivals. But there's another flip that could happen. Maybe you get Jakeem Stewart. Doesn't look promising right now. Maybe you get Jakeem Stewart. You sign DJ Pickett, Cade Phillips, Andre, Aiden Anding.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot to like about this class. Okay. Then you go hard in the portal. You return all these players. It could be a very, very promising roster for the next season. And that's why we say, look, they're not going. Brian Kelly's not going anywhere. It's not.
No.
He's not. Maybe there's some staff changes. Quite honestly, I don't expect them. I'll say that. Maybe there's some staff changes because maybe guys leave. I don't know what to expect from that because guys can always take other jobs. But in terms of us letting a guy go, I don't expect that. I don't expect that at all. If a guy leaves, it will be because they got another job offer.
I agree.
You return all those guys, get a portal, get this freshman class in. Zach, you could have a very, very nice – this could be a very good championship contending roster next year. So don't be so the sky is falling. We'll never be good under Brian Kelly. Let's fire him and leave him in the dirt, right? Like I just want Zach. I know I'm harping on this a little bit, but I want to make this point. You look at guys like Jim Harbaugh. You look at guys like Kirby Smart, who were allowed to stay, even in the midst of fans being like, well, it's Mark Richt again. Well, we'll never beat Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh never beat Ohio State. Yeah. They stuck around. They let them stay. Kirby Smart won the national title his sixth year. Sixth year at Georgia. Okay, I know he made the playoffs before. I get that. And lost to Alabama in the championship. I understand that. Jim Harbaugh didn't. Stuck around, let him build it, finally got it done.
Yep.
It is better if you go out and your mindset is a couple years, 2-3 years, it's not good enough, trash it. You'll never be a championship team. You've got to have continuity. You've got to. Brian Kelly ain't going anywhere. You're going to have that continuity with him.
Yeah,
because you can't afford to pay him out.
That's probably also a large reason why Scott Woodward did what he did, because he knows how this fan base is, and he knew it was probably going to take a little bit of time.
You have to allow it to be. Look, I will always point to this. Florida, I understand right now things are looking up for Florida because they won 2 games. Okay, they beat LSU and they beat Ole Miss, and they're saying we're keeping Billy Napier. Fine. But I tell you what, a couple games ago, I guarantee you, Florida, all Florida fans were ready to get rid of Billy Napier, all of them. But Florida, Dan Mullen, first 3 years, won 10 games every season. Darn near beat Alabama in the SEC championship. Okay? Year 4 has a bad year, he's gone. We're not good enough. We're not competing for a championship every single year. Holy cow. That's what LSU's doing. Brian Kelly won the SEC West his first stinking year here. Year 2, he back-to-back 10-win seasons. Year 2, you have a Heisman-winning quarterback. Year 3, because we replaced all the first-round talent, we're having a little bit of a tough year, and we're ready to hang him. Like, holy cow. Pump the brakes. You can wind up like Florida is, constantly rotating coaches and never doing it. Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Dan Mullen, Billy Napier. Like, you got to stick with a guy.
Yep.
Brian Kelly is a good enough coach to put you in the playoffs and to contend for national championships. Will he ever win one at LSU? We don't know. But he is going to have LSU at a championship contending level at some point. And I think it could be next year. If he backs up what he says in the portal, if these players return, you sign this class, it's a championship roster.
Well,
and
also,
next year, you get the same result, then you start asking questions.
Yeah. If you get the same result next year, you start asking questions, because you have to consider everything that you lost from last year and that the defense was what it was last year. It's not going to change over one season personnel-wise. Yeah.
Yes. You had to overhaul the entire defensive staff. It's year 1.
Another thing that a lot of people have been saying here recently is look at Nick Saban. Nick Saban had a lot of success in his first 2 years. Looked really good. Third year wasn't good. It looked bad. It was bad. They lost 5 games. Fourth year, they won a natty. So I'm not saying it's going to go exactly the way that Nick Saban went, but just because Brian Kelly didn't have his best year in the third year doesn't mean it won't happen next year or the year after or whenever.
It does not.
So I agree. While it is concerning what you've seen this season, and while I do believe that Brian Kelly deserves a lot of criticism for what you have seen this season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And while I do say that, yes, now there is a lot more concern now than there was before as far as can Kelly get this done, we can't just give up hope on Brian Kelly. Consider what could potentially be next year. Reagan, we need to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll discuss and recap an exciting last 2 games for both the men's and the women's teams in basketball. We'll be back right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue. Welcome in Tyler Townsend. TT, what's up, man? Appreciate you being in here, buddy.
Yeah, we got a good crowd tonight. Y'all need to, if you're watching on X, hop on over to YouTube or Facebook. Send us a comment. We would love to get to some of y'all's comments. I know a lot of y'all watch on X, and we're not able to see the comments on there. So if you will, hop on over to YouTube or Facebook. Please comment. We would love to discuss that with y'all.
Absolutely. Zach, basketball. Boy, last 2 games for the men and the women have been
crazy,
absolute thrillers. I mean, insane. And so we'll just go with chronological order here. So we'll start with the men. So now they went to this invitational. You go, you play a Pitt team. I'm going to say something. That Pitt team is a very good team. Very good team. Played Wisconsin, a ranked team, tooth and nail. You competed well against Pitt. You competed well. You allowed the game to get away from you early in the second half, and they built a deficit that you just quite couldn't overcome, but you fought. I mean, you brought the deficit that I think that it got to like 13 points. You cut it down to like 4 points at one point in the second half.
Yeah.
You fought hard. Really, you took a loss to a good Pitt team, but it wasn't a bad it wasn't a bad game to me. And you had the lead at half. You turn around, you're playing UCF, and it looks like the wheels had come off a little bit.
Yeah.
And at one point in the first half, you were down 20 points. And it felt like you could not buy a shot. You couldn't hit a shot to save your life. And then, buddy, in the second half, it started off some of the same. I mean, it looked like it was more of what you were seeing in the first half. And then they turned it on. And Jordan Sears at one point hit 3 threes in a row to cut the lead drastically. They just chipped away. Got a steal late. Cam Carter got a steal late, got fouled, hit shots to tie up the game to send it to overtime. Man, it was awesome. It was an awesome way to come back in this game.
Yeah.
To see the resiliency. They never gave up. It was way worse than the Pitt game. Way worse than the Pitt game ever was. Yeah. And they fought hard, tooth and nail, and got back in this game. And holy cow, that I didn't think Darius Johnson was ever going to miss a shot for UCF.
Dude, he kept
so stinking good.
He drained everything.
I mean, so stinking good. 25 points for him on the game. He was fantastic. Jordan Sears, though, turned it on for you, man.
Dude.
He had 25 points. When you needed him, he just hit a shot. Had
His
three.
catch and shoot ability from outside the perimeter is
It's
insane.
amazing. His range is really long. Man, Jalen Reed
he shot over 40% from behind the 3-point. He was 6 of 15.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just insane.
He was fantastic, and he had a horrible game. He had Zach. He had 0 points at half, 0.
25 in the second,
and he finished with 25 points. Now, obviously, a lot of that came in the triple overtime as well.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, he turned it on when he needed to. Man, Cam Carter, he had a rough first half too. He got going. Jai Bailey just continues to be this guy that
just
makes
consistent,
plays.
just
consistently there, making plays, getting rebounds. He's undersized, but gets rebounds when you need him to. Jalen Reed had a solid game, double-double, 21 points, 13 rebounds. I've been a little bit underwhelmed by some of his performances, but I was pleased with him.
Yeah, it felt good to see him get that double-double, and because I mean, I think I had mentioned it on the last podcast that he just has not performed up to expectations outside of that very first game, which obviously was against the nobody.
Yeah.
But here in a very competitive, a good team in UCF, to have the a double-double, 21 and 13 was huge.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think Jai Bailey has been extremely consistent. We've discussed that. One of the things that I've discussed with you specifically, Reagan, I don't know if I've mentioned it on here, but over and over again, I've mentioned to you that Robert Miller is just not ready. Just not ready.
Doesn't seem like
he has started. He started the first 5 games, and I continually told you over text he's not ready. He's not ready. They need to start Corey Chest or they need to start Damian Collins. Well, this game, you see Corey Chest get the start. And I think Corey Chest –
I think rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's impactful. I mean, he is a freak on the boards.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just a really impressive athlete. So I think it's a really good move there by Matt McMahon to go ahead and start Corey. Hopefully we see more of that this game. I'm not saying, that I'm giving up on Robert Miller, but you can just tell he's just not ready. He's just not quite there yet. Got some growing to do. Has taken, for the most part, just taken a lot of shots that he doesn't need to be taking.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good for him to come off the bench and get some, be able to watch some and get some learning and growing experience. So hopefully it motivates him. Hopefully it motivates him in practice and in scrimmages. So I think it'll be for the best for Robert Miller. But obviously, Reagan, probably our favorite player.
The highlight of the year.
Victorious Miller. Victorious Miller has been an absolute freak. I mean, he kind of
about bust on the scene, man. I mean,
he kind of reminds me a little bit. Oh gosh, I'm going blank. Cam.
Oh yeah, yes.
I'm going blank. What's the rest of it? 24.
God, I can't believe you put me on a spot and I can't remember now.
Oh gosh, hold on.
He plays for the Brooklyn Nets.
Hold on.
He plays for the Brooklyn Nets. I know that much. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I drew a blank on his name.
I thought I had a.
He's one and done.
Yeah, I thought I had a card. I thought I had a sports card on him.
Oh man.
It's not hold on. How am I going blank on this all of a sudden? How are we both going blank on this?
Cam Thomas.
Thank you. I knew it. Okay, I had the first name correct. I just couldn't remember his last name. He kind of reminds me, not in build as much, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Cam Thomas, like just the ability to score the basketball.
Dude.
Cam Thomas had an insane ability to be able to score the basketball no matter where he was on the floor. And Victorious Miller reminds me of that.
He's Victorious is more athletic.
Just the ability to be able to score wherever he's at on the court. When he dribbles, when he's on the perimeter and he is able to dribble inside the paint and then draw a defender off of him with his ball handling and take a mid-range jumper. You've seen that countless times.
Yep.
Where he's able to beat a man off the dribble, shoot a mid-range jumper, shoot a floater, and he's like he's wide open because he's just able to beat his defender. The defender's backpedaling, defender's trying to stay with him, and he just loses them. And he's got a wide open floater, a wide open mid-range that he nails every time.
Yep.
So Victorious Miller has for sure been my most favorite player to watch on this team. And to be able to have him come off the bench, which I think is perfect right now for them. I wouldn't want to take, somebody who are you going to take off? You're going to take off Cam Carter? You're going to take off Jordan Sears? You're going to take off Jai Bailey? No. Probably not, because him being on the bench is perfect. It's perfect. I mean, continually throughout this season, your bench points have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because of Victorious Miller and because of other guys. So, and I mean, Curtis Givens can give you a solid minute, solid 5 to 10 minutes a game and come in there and hold it down at the point guard position. And, obviously Derek Fountain has a lot of experience coming off the bench, and provides you a big man that can rebound the ball and give Jalen Reed and give Corey Chess and those other paint guys some really good rest. But it's not just like you're bringing in a true freshman. You're bringing in a veteran that is extremely experienced and has a lot of playing time in the SEC. Yep. So this team has great depth. They have great scorers. They have great rebounders. Are they going to be the most talented team? No, they're not. But they can very easily compete in the SEC, and they've proven that they can grind out a game and some really tight ball games. I mean, you've seen it happen a couple of times. You saw the Kansas State win was extremely impressive. Pitt game was really bad there in the second half. You played them really good the first half. Had a really bad start to the second half. Just weren't able to catch up, but still fought hard in that game. UCF game, then the entire first half was absolutely horrible. You were getting beat by 15 going to the break. You said at one point they were down 20, but they just continually fought, and were able to pull it off. So huge win for LSU. Obviously, they'll be back in action after Thanksgiving on Friday, back at home against Northwestern State. Will probably be a really good break from that trip, that tournament trip there, and a lot of competition. Be able to take a good break and get back home and be able to play a lesser opponent that they can obviously work out a few more things, because obviously there was, even though you went 1-1, there was a lot that didn't look as good.
That's right.
To be honest,
a lot to improve on.
A lot to improve on. So overall, really great win for LSU over the Knights. But then LSU women's, I don't know if they topped it off because LSU men's went to 3 overtimes.
Yeah.
But
it was emphatic, though. It was an emphatic end. I didn't get to watch. I don't think anybody got to watch it.
Yeah, but it was an emphatic ending because it was a buzzer beater.
Yep.
Pretty much. I mean, there was
it was a buzzer beater.
Yeah, it was a buzzer beater. LSU women's, they went on the it's a long name, Reagan. So it is the Baha Mar Pink Flamingo tournament. They're in the Bahamas. Their first game against the Washington Huskies, and kind of similar, Reagan, to the LSU men's. First half, they just got completely outplayed by the Huskies. I mean, Washington was doing a really, really good job of preventing this LSU offense from getting going. They only had 26 points there at half. Washington completely dominated the first half, but in the second half, LSU was able to chip away,
Yep.
and they outscored Washington. In the third quarter, 22-16, and then in the fourth quarter, 20-15. Just continually chipped away. Obviously, your stars continue to be stars. Anissa Morrow, she had another double-double, 19 and 13. Samaya Smith had a double-double. She had 16 and 15. She had a really, really good game, which I was really happy to see for her. She's had a little bit of a slow start to the season. Because we remember how really good she was at the beginning of last season before she tore her ACL. You know, you kind of expected that coming in this season, but she's had a little bit of a slow start. This game, she had an outbreak, scoring 16 and 15 rebounds, which was really impressive. Flage does what Flage always does, is just she gets buckets. Awesome. She had 19. But I've been a huge fan of Kaylin Gilbert. I have continually pushed for Kaylin Gilbert to be the starting point guard for this team. I understand that you've got a lot of confidence in Cheyenne Day Wilson. Obviously, last year Poa has a lot of experience at the point guard position, but Kaylin Gilbert just has a motor, dude. That is unlike any other on this team. I mean, you could compare it to Flage Johnson has an insane motor.
Yeah.
And Kaylin Gilbert is right there with Flage Johnson. Just the motor and the will to and the drive to be competitive and compete in the game, and that's just how she's been. And she I know she's been a little bit inconsistent as far as scoring wise goes. She's been inconsistent there, but every time she has played, every time she's come and been and given you minutes in the game, it's been impactful. Whether it was her, facilitating the offense and getting the ball out to your scorers, or whether it was scoring herself in the games where she's had really good scoring games. That's just how she's been. She has done what the team has needed when they have needed her. Yeah. And so, she didn't have a huge game, against Washington. She only scored 8 points. She had 3 rebounds, 0 assists, but she gave you exactly what the team needed.
Yep.
When they needed it. There at the buzzer, being able to recover the basketball after it kind of bounced around a little bit crazy there at the end. She goes into triple traffic there inside the paint and is able to spin one up and it land on the rim and fall in.
It sat there for a second.
Yeah, it just sat on the rim and then kind of snuck in, which was surprising to me because of how low she had gone to spin it up in the air. It wasn't like she had it in her hand and she took it up to the basket. It was kind of like a low, holding it down low and throwing it up with some spin to get it to the basket. And then it just sat down there and kind of fell in. And really impressive game by the women's team to be able to pull that off and remain undefeated.
Yeah, it was so back and forth. It was on Flow Sports or something. I wasn't able to watch it, but I was watching it on my game cast. And man, the end in the fourth quarter was just so back and forth and back and forth and back. And there was moments where you're like, dang. They hit a 3-pointer and there was 2 minutes left in the game, and that made it for the majority of the fourth quarter, it was a 3-point game, and Washington got a stop at one point, hit a 3 and made it a 5-point game, and you're like, that's probably it. And it was 2 minutes left. They just kept fighting, man, and made it happen. They just made it happen. So shout out to the women for getting that done and, man, winning on a buzzer beater. The men and the women basketball last 2 games, been all
awesome. The women will now play in the tournament championship there in the Bahamas against a ranked NC State team tomorrow at 12:30. So big game tomorrow. It's going to be on Flow Sports. I know you got to have a subscription. I'm sure there's other ways you can find it, but 12:30 tomorrow in the championship game against NC State. NC State's a really good team. They've taken 2 losses,
Yeah.
but they're a really good team. I think getting the scare from Washington is probably what this LSU team needed heading into this championship game against an NC State team that's really good.
Yeah, pulling off that win, I'm sure Kim Mulkey will have them ready and focused, ready to play this game tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, and it'll be another good one, I'm sure. All right, guys, appreciate y'all being in here. We'll see when we'll let you know when the next Tigers Avenue episode is. Obviously, Thanksgiving is Thursday, so you may not hear from us on Thursday or whenever, but we'll give you another update on our next show and when that will be. We hope y'all have a great Thanksgiving. We're thankful for y'all and all of our fans who continually support and watch the show. So we appreciate y'all very much. I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving with all of your families, and we'll see you next time here in the Tigers Avenue Show. 5-Star here, take us out. Peace.
Who that 5-star?